Try to determine what we need do to comply with what's ordered or directed by the federal judiciary. You know, we have been criticized, and let me say first and foremost that we need to do something in the prison system. We thought we had done a good job a few years ago when we appropriated the funds to build the Holman complex and tried to upgrade others. And we did upgrade somewhat Mount Meigs, as you know, but apparently this has not been sufficient. And every member of the legislature that I've talked with has indicated a desire and a willingness to try to resolve this problem. It's going to take a lot of money. And of course, as you know, this is what we do not have plenty of. But first, I would suggest that we explore what's in the court order and try to determine what we need to do to comply and at the same time alleviate some of this problem.
In the session today, we'll get to work and come up with a method to solve these problems.
Do you have any ideas yourself?
Yes, I do. Well, we need leadership in the system. Basically, we need a chief official in our state who is concerned about the correctional system, and we need legislators who, regardless of the fact that the majority of inmates are poor people and black people, are going to still be concerned about correcting the problems. And we need money, and money's going to have to come from some source. If it takes taxes to do it, then it should be taxes. Fortitude today to stand up and say that our responsibility to give the men in our correctional system humane treatment is just as serious as it is.
I think we will have a great team. We have guys that played, you know, with each other 4 years, and we've come a long way, and we've, you know, worked together. We all, you know, got the same goal in mind, and it's just a matter of going out and doing it.
Does this lawsuit have a good effect, bad effect, or indifferent effect on the team?
I think it's had a real good effect. Everybody was kind of let down, I guess, after the new rule, because some people who hoped, you know, be playing on the kicking team weren't going to be playing. But that day, Coach Bryant came in and said we had sued the NCAA. You know, he told them, you know, just to, you know, what they could do with it, and everybody stood up and applauded. And I think it's, you know, it's had a lot to, you know, do with the attitude toward the players.
How's the offensive line coming around?
Well, we had a scrimmage the other night, and they blocked real well. They improved a whole lot. Everybody did as a whole, I believe.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Good luck, Richard. Hope you have a big year.
Okay, appreciate it.
It's under this act that the women have won enormous multi-million-dollar sales, which are requiring more funding and co-ed gyms and so forth. Now, you can argue about various points in that, whether they should have included this or whether the regulation should be more one way or the other. But let me tell you that that's nothing compared to the mischief that ERA will cause in athletics. And we know that under the HEW regulations, You know, they exempted the contact sports from this co-ed mandate. And the contact sports were identified as football, wrestling, boxing, ice hockey, and rugby. Now, under ERA, you could not have any exemptions for contact sports. And we know this positively because of the recent court ruling in the state of Pennsylvania under the state ERA, where the court has just ordered every high school in Pennsylvania to permit girls and boys to compete and practice together in all sports, specifically including football and wrestling. Now, this is just simply, well, I think it's nonsense, and I think most people do think it's nonsense. If you allow or require a situation where the girls can go on the football team, then by the same token, the boys have got the right to go on the girls' teams. And if there's anybody in this world who ought to be against ERA, it's the women athletes.
The ERA, the poll results are surprising. Montgomery poll confirms two recent. This poll shows that 73% of those voters with an opinion on the Equal Rights Amendment are in favor of its ratification by the Alabama legislature. Now, volunteers conducted the poll. They were members of the Alabama Women's Political Caucus, represented here today by Sarah Jane Stewart right here, the American Association of University Women, the League of Women Voters, represented by Jane Katz on my left, and the National Organization for Women. Working from the voter registration list, the pollsters telephoned residents in the 5 beats in District 81. I'd like to say also that 2 other polls have been taken, one in Tuscaloosa and one in Tuskegee, that show very similar results. A similar poll was conducted in April by the American Association for University Women in Tuskegee, which shows that 73.5% of those voters called are in favor of the Equal Rights Amendment. Also, the rural part of Tuscaloosa County in District 89 was polled by telephone in March of this year. 73% of those with an opinion favored the ERA, and only 19% were opposed to it.
As any further question, please. It won't provide any immediate relief, Mr. Hamilton, for the simple reason that if, and I say if you notice on a part of the material was handed out to you that this is a supplemental appropriation. It's not included in the regular recommended budget. If these funds are appropriated, you still have your planning and your construction phase, so that would be, at the earliest, I would say some 2 years away. That would not remedy this situation we have here now.
Do you have any plan in the works to relieve the situation here?
Nothing as far as anything specific that we've even tried to establish work release and community-based centers throughout the state. I think as some of you know, this was intended as a means of trying to ward off the situation we have here now. This doesn't necessarily mean that the people who are here at M&D would go to those centers, but people from other institutions would probably go and be replaced by these, but we have been less than successful in our efforts to do that. This is by lease or by acquisition of other state facilities that we've had no success.
Well, I think even in the worldwide petroleum situation has changed. There's plenty of petroleum products available right at the present for everyone. So therefore you find the suppliers, they drop their price to try to get you to sell more, and then your retailer, he drops his price to try to sell more. It's just pure competition back in the marketplace. Now,
so after 2 years of being wrapped in a cocoon of shortages and price controls, the gasoline industry has busted out into the world of free competition again. And according to industry officials, it's a healthy sign for both the motorist and the economy. Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News, reporting.
Preaching of the past 17 years, I've made many times references to Hank Williams' Sr. Many people have. I knelt a few moments ago over here at the grave site, not praying for Hank, not praying for Audrey, but praying for every one of us who are out here today, that we might look, we might see, we might plan, we might think. One of these days, all of you entertainers will play your last gig. One of these days, your last record will be cut, your last record will be sold. The only record you'll hear from then on out is the record God has of you and I all the days of our life. Let's bow our heads now for a moment of prayer.
There's been a lot of discussion about this. I know Coach Cochran over at Hooper's discussed it with me, and I feel this way. If this comes about and it happens, then we'll play. But I wouldn't want to compare public and private football. It's just it'd be a matter of speculation. And like I say, if it happens, we'll play. Otherwise, we'll just talk about it. We're definitely stronger, physically as well as the leadership. But we've picked up a lot of new boys that have come in that hadn't played in the program, and they've had a little harder time than you would if it had been through a spring training, picking up the system. And they've made a lot of mistakes. First 4 ball games, we've made a lot of mistakes. Most of it's been inconsistency. We've had a lot of problems scoring inside the 10-yard line. We don't have any trouble inside from 10 to 10, but we've got to get a little bit more dedicated down there when the pressure gets on and just learn to be able to
to live under that pressure. And this is what happens when you've got a young ball club, a bunch of young kids. I think we've got 17 seniors on the squad, but I've got 5 sophomores starting on defense and 3 starting on offense. And we've run into some problems as far as inconsistency out of these people. But we feel like they're going to mature and come on and do a real good job for us later on.
This is a young football team, but with an abundance of enthusiasm, and Coach Nick says the mistakes will be minimized with a seasoning that more game experience brings. This is Lee Webb, WSFA TV Sports. Because at 5 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, these halls will be void of activity, with little hope of them coming alive again, at least for the same purpose they've been serving for the past 3 decades.
Professional Center Hospital insurance protection expires on September 30th at midnight. The premiums to renew this coverage for another year is astronomical and prohibitive in the opinion of our board. Therefore, we have elected to close the facility as opposed to paying this high premium and operating another year.
What's the general feeling of the employees who worked here for so long?
Of course, this is a very emotional and traumatic experience for all of us. Those of us that has been here for a number of years. It's a very personal thing, and it's a saddening experience. We feel like we provided a great service to our community to assist our physicians in treating their patients, and it's a sad experience.
Today's inflation has taken its toll in many ways. It used to be public medical facilities were hard to find because of overcrowding. Nowadays, it seems they're hard to come by because hospitals, like this one, are dying. Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News, reporting.
The big issue here in Montgomery is, of course, the budget that has to be written by the governor and then can be changed. Of course, and then the legislature would have concluded it. I believe it will take in the neighborhood $14 to $15 million of diversion instead of the 5 that the Senate passed and sent to the House, in which there was a non-concurrence. The point I'm trying to make to the people of Alabama is that we are going to run the essential functions of government, and we have the commitment of the Lieutenant Governor of Alabama, and we have the commitment of the Speaker, who is Mr. McCorkadale, the Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Beasley, that they are going to work And we believe that the conferees, although it is a matter for the conferees and not a matter for any of us that I have mentioned, that is of me as a governor, to determine these matters, but I believe they will be determined in such fashion that we will have a budget that can be and will be accepted. If they do not accept the budget sent by the conference committee, then the state of Alabama will not have a budget to operate on for the elderly and the blind and the crippled and the Medicaid and the building of highways. But I would say that in my judgment, the legislature is not going to be irresponsible. They're going to be responsible in this regard, and we will have a budget. So I wouldn't say that they're 100% agreement with me on anything, but I would say that they're 100% in agreement that we need an adequate budget to be passed by the legislature of Alabama.
Well, are they all in agreement on how this budget should be passed?
They're in agreement that we should have and take whatever funds are necessary from the funds available to fund a budget. And I can assure you that that's above the $5 million passed by the Senate. Education, Medicaid for those who need Medicaid, the elderly, the prison system, the courts, the state police, and therefore every citizen.
Observe the provisions.
Observe the provisions.
Solemnly swear. State of Alabama.
That I will.
Solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution
United States
and of the state of Alabama.
and of the state of Alabama.
Well, it was about 40 or 50 that contacted me, they write letters and all and call. And so, I had a little conflict at first, like they was calling the house. And my mother, father, they was getting tired of it. So, finally I, picked the 5 that I had in the paper. And so, I went from there, I added all the situations there, And so, it was a hard decision to make, But I think I made the right decision.
What finally swung you over to Auburn?
Well, first was the Coach Bob Davis, and the guys, and there's a great, a group of fellows, So, then my mother, she wanted me to stay in the States, so she can see me play, And so, I thought it was, great, when she made that a statement, that she wanted to see me stay here. And so I took it in consideration, And so I decided, Auburn is the place to be, And I hope to make the best out of it.
Do you have any funny stories about recruiting you could tell us? I know with 40 schools at least after you, something must have happened funny.
Hey, it was a hassle, It was a hassle, at the first of the season, my coaches, they told me,
coming in, doing all kind of rumors, and all. And like, I did have a few rumors, So it just, I tell you like this, I don't want to go over it again. I tell you like this.
You wouldn't take anything for the experience, though.
Right. I swear, because it was, it was a great experience, Like, it's always, it's something that, will go with me a long ways, people coming in, saying all kind of bad things about you, good things, It just was a great experience.
But we were basing our defense primarily in the beginning on the lack of power to promulgate a rule and make it a penal offense without any sanction of the legislature, and for the purpose of just seeing if such power can be delegated, and we seriously doubt it, on the one hand. And in the second place, we're going to challenge the procedure by which this so-called 55-mile-an-hour speed limitation was put into effect. The statute giving certain promulgation powers, if it is constitutional, does require that such promulgated speed limits be based at intersections and other places upon the road after a series of engineering and traffic studies. And we found that such studies were not made, and that rather being imposed at intersections and other places, it was imposed upon the entire highway system of the state of Alabama, and we seriously question the power to do such a thing.
We're suggesting that certain local boards at the county and municipal level be reinserted into the present amended bill. Now, John, not all of them, as is the case now with the present bill. We're only asking that, for example, industrial development boards, boards of adjustment, zoning boards, housing boards, utility boards, what we're calling, for lack of a better term, the money boards, be placed back within the provisions of the Ethics Act. That's the main difference between our thinking, the Commission's thinking right now, and the committees that we've been privileged to meet with.